Hi.
Hey,
How
how's it going?
are you? Nice to meet you.
Good. Pleasure to meet you too. Let me get this volume a little higher. Okay. How are you?
Good. Nice to meet you. So I know my colleague Dean interviewed you in like 2021 about your mom.
Okay. Yeah. I that piece went really well. It turned out really well.
So here you are about your dad. So I read that your dad set up a batting cage for you at your house growing up.
Yes. Yeah. So, where I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming, it's, people in New York can empathize because it's just not warm for, let's say 7 months out of the year. And baseball, unfortunately, is kind of a sport that you don't have to have nice weather, but it's nice to have. It makes things a little bit easier. And so, being able to have the barn, which it was like a 60 foot by 40 foot barn that he built when I was about 11 years old. It was probably finished when I was about 12. And my older brother, unfortunately, he didn't get to enjoy it very much. He only got maybe like a year in it before he headed off to college baseball at Nebraska. Um, but at that point, we were like, it would be really great if we could have somewhere that just was away from the wind and away from the cold that we could even just hit off the tee or a little bit of flip or whatever. And so he ended up having that built, and we ended up. I mean, he was a tax accountant, and so like from January to April 15th, I didn't really see him that much. Maybe like 30 minutes, an hour a day, maybe.
Right.
And so during that time, like I would just go out and if I had a little extra time, I'd go, start on the tee and just hit for, like 30 minutes there. And then he got this machine that had like its own little feeder. So you just put 12 balls in there. And then I would go run to the little black mats that we had, and then I'd hit 12, and then I'd go reload it and go put 12 more up there, and then go hit 12. And it was really awesome for me because anytime that I got the urge to just go, and I was like, I've got a little bit of time, like let me go and try and get a little bit better, or just like work on something. I was able to do that, and then my dad and I used that getting ready for tournaments later on. And he would just try and get as close as possible and throw to me. And just really we spent a lot of time in that barn. And so it became famous when I got drafted. And I remember, I don't know, I think it was with like the USA Today or something like that. We took pictures of it out in front of there. And it was kind of funny because everybody thought of me being in Wyoming, like just having like an ice fishing pole, and some scout like saw me like flicking some ice fishing pole. It was like, oh well, that guy might get it done. So anyways, yeah, he had that built when I was about 12, I believe. And it was awesome. It was awesome to have a huge part of why I'm here today, I think. And just really, really grateful that he had the foresight, to be able to be like, what, this would be really good for his development.
So is your dad athletic? I mean, did he play any sports?
So my dad, he wrestled in
Cool.
college, and he actually he blew his knee out in I think it was either, he said, his first or second year.
Oh,
Um, he got his foot stuck between the pad and then got turned, and ended up blowing his knee out. And back then, the surgery wasn't as good as it is now, and it just didn't. He wasn't able to continue after that. And so
yeah.
he was at a junior college in Colorado. And that's where him and my mom originally grew up, was in Colorado, actually La Junta, Colorado. And he did wrestling, and then also I don't know if I haven't talked with anybody on like whether this falls underneath like the athletic category or not, but he did a lot of rodeo growing up, and
What, rowing?
rodeo.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
yep. And so he did like he did. I think the big ones that he did were bareback riding, and then he also tried. He dabbled with a few other things, but we have some saddles from him back in the day,
Hmm.
in the barn where that he won at rodeos for saddle bronc riding and bareback riding, and mainly bareback, I think. And he said that's probably why he has a few less brain cells today is all that jarring back and forth. But yeah, he was. I mean, and they played baseball when they were really young, but there was a lot more time that needed dedicated to it as he got older. And they were running a farm and a ranch, and he just didn't quite have the time, the luxury that I did. And so he was loved sports, and he's loved them, ever since I can remember. And he did play football in high school, was big, big into football,
Hmm.
and then, like I said, ended up wrestling in college, and then did rodeo. But yeah, I mean, he's loved sports, ever since I can remember. We've always had, a game on, in the house, whether it be, a football game like the Denver Broncos or the Colorado Rockies. We the even the Avalanche. We had games on going on all the time in our house.
So is he still working or is he retired?
He's finally retired, which
Oh,
he's very thankful for. Yes, he's very thankful for. He retired in 22, I believe, maybe like the summer of 21, and then kind of stayed on a little bit to help out, here
okay.
and there in the spring of 22. But yeah, he's retired now, and so he's picked up golf, and he's trying to master that, just like everyone else, and he's having a lot of fun with it. He spent the last two spring trainings down in St. Lucie, because obviously with his work schedule, he wasn't able to come to many spring
Mhm.
trainings. He would only come if at all. He was able to make it out for like 3 days or so. And so anyways, he was able to come down and kind of enjoy,
Mhm.
what we get to enjoy down there, like the good weather during, February, March, and April, or right at the beginning of April, and he was like, I kind of was like, you should come along, like let's just, let's see what a little bit of golf is like, and it had been years since he had played, and he picked it up, and his competitive spirit, comes right out, and he was like, okay, all right, like I can see where this is fun, and you're trying to get better at it, and so it's something that we've been able to do more recently,
That's nice.
together, and yeah, exactly, and we've had fun with that, but they're gonna actually end up getting a place down in St. Lucie, so that they can kind of start doing the snowbird thing, and spend summers up in Wyoming, and then come down to St. Lucie for the winters, and kind of get that nice retired life.
So they still live in your childhood home?
Yes, yeah,
Oh,
they do,
nice.
and yeah, they're there right now in Wyoming, and they're really enjoying. They have grandkids. My older brother and my older sister, they have their kids, and my mom obviously, she wants to be close to grandkids, and so they're enjoying that time right now, and then but during the winter, like my dad, like I said, he used to be working all the time,
Right.
um, and so now that he's not, he's like, I have to get out of here. Like I have to go and do something active. I've got to be able to get out of the house and like get around the sun. And so my
Mhm.
mom's all for that too, and so that's why they started looking at St. Lucie, and
Oh,
spending
okay.
more time there during the cold months. But yeah, he used to be occupied with work, and it was like, okay, so that occupies most of your day, and but not anymore. And so now they're gonna do that snowbird thing.
So actually, a friend of mine who I met in Manhattan went to your high school.
Oh, really?
Yeah, and
You
she was
really?
there. Yeah, her name is Brianna Hupka. She was there. I don't think she was in your grade, but she was there while you were there.
Oh my gosh,
Isn't
that's
that funny?
crazy.
So
Oh,
can you just
what a small.
explain? I know. Can you? And she actually married a Mets fan from New York.
No way.
Yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. So I texted her before the interview, and I'm like, when I was researching, I'm like, wait a minute, he's from me. Anyway,
Yeah,
so tell us really quickly where you grew up as far as like your dad and mom had to bring you to practices far away, right?
yeah. So I did. I grew up in Cheyenne, Wyoming. And you know, it's about 2 hours from Denver, Colorado, and it's not known for baseball. And so, or at least it wasn't when I was growing up. It's a much better program now. And so, um, yeah, in order to do our practices, we did have a team in Cheyenne, but most of our games had to be played in Denver. And so we were able to do, practices in Cheyenne, and we did that just probably like a lot of northern kids, where you find a gym, basketball gym that somebody will let you go into, an old one, and you hit the ground balls in the gym, and you're not really able to get fly balls or anything like that, and you make the best of it. You set up little nets and whatnot, and you hit into the cage, and you do the best you can. But then for most of the games, we had to end up going to the tournaments, which pretty much every single time was in Denver, and 2 hours away.
Wow.
Sometimes a little bit closer,
Mhm.
in Fort Collins, if maybe you could catch a tournament there that was an hour away. But most weekends were spent going 2 or 3 hours, down to Denver, which depending on which side you were in. And then as we got older, it turned into Omaha, Nebraska, which is 8 hours away. Then some places in Kansas. End up going into Washington a lot, and Rapid City, South Dakota, which is about 3.5, 4 hours away. So we were always making treks, as a family, and especially for the sport, in order to find the best competitive baseball that we could in our part of the country. And so, for us, most of the time, 2 hours was a close game, and for 4 or 5 hours was more like, okay, like that's more kind of right in the middle. So, probably the worst ones that we had to go on were probably like to Topeka, Kansas. I think that one was like 13, 12 hours, something like that. And then you Washington. If you drove to that one, and it just depended. Families are in different situations, so some are able to fly to it, and others, you drive to it, and that
Yeah.
that drive, you're 14 hours away. So, it just depended. But it was a lot of sacrifice on their end, to give us the best opportunity that we could to play, competitive baseball, and to try and put us in the best position possible to make something out of this, whether it just be to help pay for college. That's what a lot
Right.
of us were trying to do. A lot of us weren't even thinking about pro ball. We were just like, oh well, maybe I can get a scholarship, and help pay for college. And so, it was a huge sacrifice made, by our parents, in order to travel, and the hotel rooms, and obviously, you know baseball is not a cheap sport. You've got the bats that cost, definitely, 300 dollars. The glove costs 200, $300. So, financial sacrifice, time sacrifice, energy, obviously. And then I had two other siblings, until I was probably, I don't know, I was probably 13 or 14 when they got out of the house. And so during that time, there's two parents, they can only go with two children. And
It's
so
true.
the third one's kind of like we got to find someone for you to go with. We got to find a friend for you to go with, and so just a lot of sacrifice on their part.
So I've seen in interviews you mentioned that you're religious. So did your father and mother um take you to church? What kind of example did they instill that way?
Yeah, yeah, they did, and sometimes like I tell other people like if you just bring your children to church, like eventually it gets through because I was the type of kid at the beginning where I was going kicking and screaming to church. I had to be dragged out and dragged out of bed and dragged out, and but eventually it did. It got through to me, and I think obviously their example when I was younger was a huge part of that. And also when I went through a tough time where I tore my ACL in high school, and I just kind of realized how fragile this all
Mhm.
is, and how fragile sports and life in general
Mhm.
really really is. And I was like, okay, I've really spent a lot of time and dedication to this one thing, but really when we get to the end of our lives, like what is going to be important? Like what are you going to be able to take with you, and not going to be able to take anything with you. And so I really started to dive into my personal relationship at that time, and my parents were a really big part of that. They actually did this thing. It was called the Truth Project with me, and it was trying to figure out what does we always have been told that science and religion don't really back each other up, and so this particular project went in and said, okay, where do science and religion, where do they correlate, and where do we find similarities, and in the differences, we they went into it more on, okay, what are these differences, and are they really light years apart like we're told, or are they really a lot closer than they seem? And so, anyways, I went through that project with them, and I really came out on the other side, with a whole different perspective, that led to me being a whole lot more serious about my relationship with Christ, and honestly, I couldn't be more thankful for that time. It was tough to go through, but my parents have always they've always been my biggest cheerleaders, and they've always supported me in this sport. But first and foremost, they've always wanted me to be, well rooted in the word, and also in my relationship with God. And then they know that everything after that is just okay. That this will take care of itself the way that it's supposed to, but this is the most important thing.
Well, it's funny because, I've read about the fact that you're a nice guy, but when I did an interview, I think when I interviewed Lindor, my husband parked the car in like near the Seaver entrance,
Okay.
and my husband's a huge Mets fan. So
Yeah.
I was telling him I was interviewing. He's like, "Don't you remember when you were interviewing? I think it was Lindor that
Uh-huh.
he saw you pull into the parking lot and a fan wanted an autograph, and you like turned your car around to give him an autograph." So there you go.
Yeah, no, I do. And sometimes that's the only interaction that they're gonna get like that season. And so I try and put myself in their shoes. Obviously, you can't get to everyone you would love
Sure.
to, but if I have the time, and
Right.
it's something that I try and like, okay, like if I were in their shoes, and I had been at one point, that's the thing, I can
Right.
relate with that. Like
Right.
I was that kid at the big league baseball game that just wanted a major league baseball, and like thought it was the coolest thing in the world, and like when a big leaguer tosses it up to you, you're just like, oh my gosh, like that's so cool, and so to be able to have those interactions with fans, I think it's something that I've been really fortunate, and also a little proud to know that like I haven't let that change. Like I've still remembered that it's good to have the interaction, and I usually sign after the games. If people are willing to
Right.
wait, in the out at the parking lot, I've been able to do that. and have a lot of really cool interactions with people that they've been really gracious. They've been all the things, and it's been cool for me too because just being on the opposite end of it now and being like, okay, if you take 5 minutes and you just spend some time with someone and sign an autograph and just take a picture and smile and be genuine around them, it really it can make the biggest difference.
So how often does your dad, going back to the Father's Day, how often come to games and will he be there on Father's Day?
Yeah, so he won't be there this Father's Day, to my knowledge. I mean, he might show up, and that'd be fine. But you know, he's been able to come to more games. They try and make a trip like let's say once a month or once every 6 weeks or
Good.
and they try and check out some different places. So not just do them all in New York, but try and check out some different ballparks. So
Mm.
obviously they do like to come to Coors Field because that's 2 hours away and very very easy to get to. So they're doing that and really enjoying that. I don't think we've missed a year that I played at Coors Field actually with most of the family. And that's really cool because that's the stadium that I used to go to when I was young. Like we would usually go to like when I was growing up until probably like 12 or 13, and then it started to get, well, we're playing our games and so it's harder to get to games. But up until that year, probably around once a year we would just take a trip up to Denver and go check out a game and just have fun with that, have some Dippin' Dots at the ballpark and try and get a major league ball, like I said. And it was a great time, great experience for me. And I remember I always wanted to be one of them. It's something that I don't ever remember not wanting to. And I don't know if, that might be something that just God laid on my heart and,
Yeah.
this path that I was supposed to go. But I always wanted to be a Major League Baseball player and thought it was so cool going to those games. So that part is really really cool. They've also come out to San Diego, and obviously they came out to a Yankees series, which was really cool. And so we're trying to knock more off the list. They
Mm.
came down to Miami this year because they were still in St. Lucie when we came down in May. And so yeah, just they're trying to knock some off the list, but I will say they're also really really thoughtful and they're not trying to like overwhelm and be there all the
Okay.
time. They get Dad. He would love to. I'm sure he would love to be at most games. But they also they get that like I'm doing I'm trying. It's my job, and I'm trying to do well at it. And
That's what I was
so,
gonna ask you. Is there any pressure, extra pressure when your dad's there in the stands?
I mean, I always want to do well for him. And I would always love to, for it to always work out where I do better when they're there. But it doesn't always work out that way. And I would say, probably the first few times that they were there, yeah, I definitely wanted to do well, but also they got to be there for my debut in Atlanta, and then they came and watched the series in New York when I came back to New York. And you're always wanting to do well and make a good first impression when you're up there. And so they were able to be there for that and be there for some really cool moments. But now I just we kind of understand that baseball is just such an up and down game, and it's a little bit of the luck of the draw. Like if I happen to get some pitches to do some damage with that day, then maybe they'll get to watch something really cool. But I did think that it was cool. This year on Mother's Day, hitting the home run with Mom. She was watching, and I talked to her earlier that day, and I thought that was cool. And I've had a cool Father's Day game where I think it was 18, I think, where in Arizona I hit like a go-ahead home run in the top of the ninth. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, I think he was the top ninth or top of the eighth. And I saved that jersey and that stuff, and I gave it to Dad.
Oh, that's nice.
Later, yeah, and so funny enough, I still think we're trying to get that in a case and get hung up,
Right.
but they have it, and so I definitely want to do well while they're there, but
Mm,
they also totally understand, and like we've
right.
had conversations by now that it's kind of a luck of the draw. But I will say, if I'm not doing well, Dad definitely has plenty of he wants to help. Like he wants to help however he can. And so, he'll
I was
give
gonna
his
ask him. Yeah, I was gonna ask you, does he like text you feedback or call you?
yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah, he'll text me feedback like if I'm not doing well for a while, and he'll be like, all right, so I know like what you're doing, but I see these few things, and I think it could help, and and so it's good because he's been watching me ever since I was really little, and so he's that pair of eyes that is
Right.
outside of the game that has always seen how I've swung the bat and how I played the game. And
Right.
so, he's someone that's not, in it with me, so close to it all the time that he's kind of just watching things like as they develop. And he's like, I've noticed over the last, couple of weeks that, this seems a little bit different about what you've been doing. And so I always do read it, take it, and try and then compare it with what the information that we have now. We do get onto some things for sure with his help, but it's definitely it's definitely still the father son relationship where he's like, okay, I see this, like let's fix this, and let's move on, and he wants me to do well, and he wants the best for me, and so I really appreciate that even at this stage in the game.
Is he on social media? No, right?
No, no, he doesn't do social media. And I think they honestly they just keep track of things through my mom's. And honestly, she I think she's on like Facebook. I don't even know if she's on anything else. But she just keeps track of it to keep track of like family and
Right,
what
right. So
what
your father's not reading comments and everything.
No, I don't think so. I don't think he's on there reading comments. I will say he reads like all of the news articles though. So
Oh,
like he like I didn't realize that he did this until probably a couple of years ago, but he gets up like in the morning, and like in the morning he'll just type my name into like the news,
oh, that's so
and yeah,
cute.
and
I
he'll just
love that.
what they're saying, or like what the news is about Ace. So I didn't know that he did that until like a couple of years ago. But
Oh my
yeah,
God.
he'll get on there, and he'll get up to date with everything that's going on. And
Wait, so
you're
he probably knows your news before you know your news.
Yeah, he does most of the time. He does most of the time because I mean, like I'm waking up at like 12 or 1, in order for a 7 o'clock game, and he's already been up, and he's got the laptop out and already checked out all the
Oh
articles.
my God. It's
So
so
it's pretty funny.
so will you be sending him any do you give gifts for Father's Day? Like, or would you be sending him anything, or would you
Yeah,
just
we
wait?
we we do gifts, but more so lately it's been like for their house, like we're
Yeah.
we're helping out with a few things like with their house,
Nice.
and so it's
Mm,
like that's not going to be like a gift like on like
right, I see. Yeah.
but we do like in the past, we've done things where you get like you just I don't know like the guy things that come up throughout a year where it's like I don't know like maybe that year we're getting ready to do like a trip out west, and so it's
Mm,
like I don't know like like there's maybe some night that like we thought would be really useful for that,
right,
just
right.
some things like that. But most of the time, the biggest thing is just the conversation,
Yeah.
hopping on the phone,
Oh,
talking for
nice.
because just in this lifestyle, you can start to go a little bit longer without talking to each other, whether
Yes.
it's a week, 10 days. Sometimes it goes into a couple weeks, and you're like, like need to hop on and talk with them.
Right.
And so that's the main thing is making sure, we're getting on the phone. But yeah, no, I mean, this year it's yeah, we're like I said, we're helping them just a little bit with the house and whatnot. So not too exciting of stuff, but it'll be really useful.
All right.
So but yeah, no, the big thing is, phone call and just,
Yes.
talking with them, a little conversation for Father's Day.
So my last question is, tell us about his nickname for you and then how that sparked your.
Well, his nickname for me is Taterhead, and my middle name is Tate, and so I don't know where the Taterhead came from, but
Right.
he's called me it ever since I can remember. And yeah, I just it's a term of endearment. There's nothing,
Right.
there's nothing that I find embarrassing or anything about it. Like it's normal conversation between us, and I really have appreciated everything that he's done for me, and I all the sacrifices that he's made, because I know that it wasn't his first choice to be working a desk job, for 12 hours a day,
Yeah.
and be providing for us, and doing all these things in order that I may have a better shot at, doing what I wanted to do, and working. He said when I was young, if you love what you do, then you'll never work a day in your life. And so I always, took that, and I tried to. I was like, okay, so what do I love? And it's like, man, well, I love baseball, so I'm going to try and work really, really hard at that and see if I can make that my job. And I know it wouldn't be possible without him and the sacrifices that he made. And so yeah, I'll always be his tater head,
This is
and
so cute.
I think
So
that
don't your teammates also call you, like, what do they call you?
they my teammates, oh man, I mean, sometimes they'll call me Nims. Sometimes they'll call me honestly, it does, like, it could be anything. It honestly, like, from week to week, it could depend on what we're doing with that week. But most of the time, guys are calling me Nims. It's just real short and simple and to the point. Honestly, I bet you if you asked half of my teammates in there, they wouldn't even know that my middle name is Tate. But
Mhm.
but my, like I said, dad, he'll still call me at sometimes. And even my sister, will call me at sometimes because he called me at so
That's so
much.
cute.
So yeah, so it's just something that, between us, and I enjoy it. But yeah, he's been unbelievable, and him and I have a great relationship, and I'm very, very fortunate for that.
So nice. Well, I was telling Katie that I do want to speak to him for the article as
Yeah.
well. This is going in this Sunday's edition since it's
Okay.
Father's Day.
Yeah.
Um,
He
if you
should be available. I mean, he's
okay,
retired.
he's
So
retired.
yeah. If
My
you
sister,
don't catch him
act
right
like
away, he's probably on the golf course, and then you'll get him. But his number
okay.
is. Oh, do you have it? Okay.
No, I don't have it. I don't have it. I'm just gonna get a piece of paper. So even though I'm recording this, I'll get a piece of okay.
Yeah.
Or what is it?
His number is 307
Mm-hmm.
214
Mm-hmm.
0430.
Okay, so I'll like text him and see. And also I was asking Katie, is it okay if we use parts of the video interview
Yeah.
in okay, great.
Yeah.
Yeah, so
100%.
and then we'll need photos from him, but I'm sure like we'll collaborate on photos as well. But it was so
Yeah.
great talking to you.
Such
Thank
a
you so much.
thanks for doing this. I really appreciate it, because
Thank you for
definitely wouldn't be here without him. So I would love for him to get his time in the sun as well.
all right. Thank you so much.
Awesome. Thank you. Talk to
Bye.
you later.
Talk
Bye.
to you later. Bye. Thanks.
Hi, Angela. Thank you so
Bye,
much.
Katie. Thank you.